Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are today doing a quick but hopefully thorough overview of the Scale Up Accelerator Funds, both for folks who are on the call, but also I want to extend a warm welcome to the folks I know who will be watching this afterwards as a recording. Please know that we will do our best to answer any questions that come up, of course, during this conversation, but don't hesitate to reach out afterwards. My name's Carrie Rose. I'm the program director of the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative, and I'm presenting today with my colleague, Roxanne Lupino. Roxanne, you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. My name is Roxanne Lupino. I am the Regional K-16 Education Collaboratives Project Director for Los Rios Community College District, which is serving as the fiscal agent for the grant. Happy to be here today.
Okay, thank you. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So during the webinar today, we're going to cover a couple of things. One is just a super quick, what is the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative? I'm assuming most folks who are at the Accelerator Fund application stage are familiar with Sacramento K-16, but just to lay some groundwork. We'll cover what is the Accelerator Fund, what's the purpose of these funds, who's eligible to apply. The focus areas for this second round of the Accelerator Fund, a little bit different than the first round. We'll be sure to cover all of the important information about what makes the proposal competitive. And then we'll give you some examples of what was funded in round one, so you have a sense of what that looked like when it was successful. And then, of course, a real list like nuts and bolts, walking folks through the application. Really important information in there about the budget that you want to submit. And then Roxanne and I will be available for Q&A. So that's what we're going to cover today. Don't stand on ceremony. Do feel free to throw questions in the chat as we go along. And we can go to the next slide. So just again, to ground us quickly in the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative, the reason why the accelerator funds are even available is because of the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative and funding. That funding came to us a few years back from an 18 million grant that came from the state of California, covers a period of 5 years. And it is one of several. We are one of 13 such regional collaboratives throughout the state funded with those same dollars. Our collaborative unites K-12 schools, higher ed institutions, and employers across multiple counties. We have 8 counties we cover, and there's a map there to the side where you can see which counties exactly are covered in ours. And all of this aligns with the Sacramento Community Economic Resilience Fund. So we often are talking about our sister project. We prosper together. We work hand in hand to make sure that education and workforce development in our region are really working together for those college and career pathways. If you want to know more information about the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative, our website and our email are at the bottom right-hand side of this slide, so don't hesitate to reach out. But for the sake of today, I'm just kind of doing a super high-level explanation about the collaborative. So the next slide is one last thing I wanted to share about the collaborative, which has to do with our 5 key goals. And this is important for the Accelerator Fund because you will see in a minute that one of the requirements is that you connect your project to one or more of these goals. So just to be clear, and again, these will be in the application, one of the key goals is that we're looking to send 1,300 additional young men of color to UC Davis and Sacramento State by 2025 and 2026. We're looking to triple the number of students who can graduate from high school with both a diploma and a freshman year of college by 2026. And when I say by 2026, currently as it stands, the grant is funded through June of 2026. So the end of June is sort of what we are setting ourselves up for in terms of all of the deadlines that we're looking at. Our third goal is to triple the number of students who can graduate from high school with healthcare and engineering pathways. This came directly from both the response that we received from the information in our region about where our jobs available, but also a request by the state to pick the pathways that we knew needed attention in our region so that we could have a full and vibrant workforce. Our fourth goal is really around comebackers, helping to award degrees and certificates, reverse transfer credits to folks who have done some schooling but didn't finish. So we want to be able to help them complete their educational journey. And then our fifth goal is around helping institutions achieve Hispanic serving institution status. And that's primarily for colleges and universities. So that will show up again in your application, but just a reminder that this is what the whole K-16 collaborative is all about. So next slide. Okay, so now that we're just kind of grounded again in what is Sacramento K-16, let's talk about what the Accelerator Fund is. So the Accelerator Fund is some additional monies out of that original grant that we set aside. And the idea was we wanted to have a fund that could help accelerate projects that align with our mission, especially the mission around educational equity and workforce opportunities in the California Capital Region. So unlike some of the other ways in which we've supported work through like our work group proposal process, this is really about doubling down on something that is up and moving. Now, there are a lot of ways to look at that, and we'll talk about that some more, but just big picture, what you want to think about with these funds, with this Accelerator Fund, is that we really want to use it to scale up or deepen your work. It's not really designed for brand new efforts that you want to kick off or get off the ground. And of course, it's also to help your work reach more students, have a broader impact, or get stronger outcomes by that June date. It's such an important date for us in terms of how we're measuring our success. So those are the kinds of things this fund is really designed to help do. I had mentioned earlier that there was a round one of funding that I'll share a little bit more about the funded proposals for. This is our second round. So our first round happened. It was earlier this past year. This is our second round. We will have $450,000 available to distribute in this round under the Scale Up Accelerator Fund. And the time frame for the project that you would propose and submit your application for should run from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Okay, next slide. So now that we know what it is and what it's for, who's eligible to apply. So in order for someone to apply for an accelerator fund, they must be an educational institution, for example, K-12 district, community college, university, or it could be a nonprofit or community-based organization or not-for-profit industry partner. But if it is, they must also be sponsored by a local education agency, just like we talked about above, a community college or a four-year university. So it is open to nonprofits to be the applicant, but just know that you'll really have to have that sponsorship as part of your application. You must also serve students within our region. And again, back to that a county map that's there on the right-hand side. So you don't have to serve all of the region, but the students you serve for sure need to be within that region. Okay, next slide. So as I mentioned in round one, we put out the call for proposals, and we had some areas that we were really encouraging folks to focus on. Partly because we're sort of always trying to imagine, okay, when the K-16 grant is done at the end of June, and I say the grant, not the work, we'll be continuing the work, but the funding, the state funding that's currently funding it, when that comes to fruition in June of 2026, what do we want to have done with those 5 goals? So with round one and with round two, we've looked at the places where we think, okay, here's something where we could really bolster our work, or where we see some really great progress happening in our collaboration that we want to encourage people to think about doubling down on. So this is not intended to be an exhaustive list, just some examples of well, the focus areas we want you to stay focused on, but the examples we're going to offer under those focus areas are just examples. They're not intended to be the exhaustive list of everything it could be. So the first focus area is going to be expanding career pathway alignment with We Prosper Together. That's the Sacramento arm of the California jobs first work, and that's where we're lining up our education and our workforce development efforts. So some examples of what's going on have to do with healthcare, biotech, computing, and engineering. Yeah, Linda, great. I'm so glad you're asking a question and not waiting.
Well, just when you use the term healthcare, how broad is that? For example, we have sports medicine pathway. Is that in healthcare? With maybe maybe the pathway of sports medicine, also EMT, because there's always has to be an EMT on a football field, right? For example, so just I just don't know if that would be healthcare because it's not like nursing or LVN or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. And in fact, I think we're trying to think as broadly as possible when it comes to healthcare. So unless anyone on the call knows otherwise, my understanding is you absolutely want to be thinking about all the ways in which healthcare and the workforce connect. So yeah, sports medicine, EMT, I know those are examples. I think that is the habit, right? People think nursing or they think doctor, right? So we're trying to really understand that the healthcare field in our region is big and it's diverse, and we really want to be able to support folks in covering as much of that as possible.
Yes, absolutely. We're looking at healthcare with a very broad lens. I would suggest in your application really highlighting the demand of whichever career path that you're focusing on, the demand in the region, and also whether or not it's a high wage job, because that's what the collaborative is really focused on, making sure students, when they graduate with their certificate or degree, they are able to transition into a livable wage.
Yeah, that's a good point, Roxanne. Thank you. Okay, so that's the first focus area is expanding career pathway alignment with We Prosper Together. How are our education systems and our workforce development resulting in healthier, robust communities where people can make a livable wage? Right? We want to look at expanding our data sharing participation. Our region, you've probably heard because we're so proud and we talk about it a lot, but we have a very innovative data sharing agreement system going on between our K-12, 2-year and 4-year schools. So we very much want to encourage people to be part of that. Another focus area involves increasing college enrollment for priority student populations. I mentioned that the 1300 campaign goal is one of our key goals as a collaborative, but in addition, our priority student populations are broader. So we want to look at any efforts involving serving young men of color, low income, first generation, rural, and adult learners. So any of those areas would be something to be thinking about. Our fourth focus area would be increasing transfer pathway opportunities. We're very interested in projects, for example, that would create tools that help smooth transitions and transfers for folks between institutions. For example, automatic credentialing or articulation alignment, all the ways in which people hit barriers. What are some ways that we know from something that's up and running that could, but for a little rocket fuel, really take off and be a great example for everybody to either go bigger or to share and be replicated. And then last but not least, expanding dual enrollment models. So there's a whole bunch of ways in which people are doing some work around that in the area. It's an important area for our region. So we certainly want to be able to have folks submit proposals that really look at ways to integrate A through G, CTE, equitable access, and early college credit. Okay. So as we go through the application again, you'll see where the goals show up and where those focus areas show up. So once we do get to that proposal and people want to know, like, how is my proposal competitive? You've got to address all 5 of the following areas for a proposal to be competitive. This is all in the proposal application, but still, just to make it super clear, you want to be able to address the priority area. One or more of the focus areas from the prior slide is being addressed. You need to talk about significance. It is aligned with one of the collaborative goals. We want to talk about innovation. We want to show this is something that has multiple partners or breakthrough work or but for this, this is something really exciting and innovative in our community, and we want to be able to grow it, share it, and replicate it. Timing, you need to show a realistic ability to spend your funds by June 30th of 2026. So, again, that's the date we're looking at having our house in order so that our K-16 collaborative can move into its next iteration in terms of all of the funding and work that we'll be doing. But for this grant, we need to be able to wrap it up, and it's this grant that's funding the accelerator funds. And then finally, replication. I know I've talked about this a couple times, but a big piece of why we're a regional collaborative is because we want to share what works, right? So how could this be scaled, replicated, or sustained beyond June 30, 2026 across our region? So when you complete your application, each of those areas will be scored. There's an independent scoring committee that reviews all of the applications. Each one of the folks on that committee scores each of the applications. Each of those areas gets a score of 0 to 3. There's a rubric included in the application that tells you exactly what the reviewer will be looking for to assign 1, 0, 1, 2, or 3. So none of it should be a surprise. And then I've included at the bottom, although we're going to walk through this together now, the actual accelerator application link. So you'll have it in a couple of places because we're going to want to share this webinar with you and have it posted in all of our communication portal sites. So it's just one other place you can find that link to get the actual application. Okay, next slide. So again, just for context, right? In the first round, I just wanted you all to have a sense of like how it went the first time so it can help you figure out a little bit what you want to do in round 2 for your proposal. So in round 1, we received 14 full proposals that totaled $5.5 million in requests. For the first round, we had 900,000 to allocate. This time we have 450,000. So just to give you a sense of things, okay? The review committee scored and ranked the proposals and made the recommendations, and then those recommendations went before the steering committee who approved those 4 projects. And those projects below are examples of what really stood out. So just wanted to share a little bit with you both. You can see who got it, what the project was, and what the funding amount was. But I just thought it might be helpful for you to hear just a tiny bit more about each of those. So the Roseville Joint Unified School District proposal is a program that's designed to triple engineering pathway graduates with flexible options leading to high school internships, Sierra College credentials, or CSUS degrees. So you can see the partnerships involved. You can see the pathway piece involved there. The Lake Tahoe application for scaling dual enrollment is designed for Latinx students advancing equity, college attainment, and workforce readiness. So they were working hand in hand, the community college and the school district, on that particular goal. The third one, Sierra College and Kaiser Permanente, we're addressing allied health instructor recruitment and putting together a pilot to mitigate instructor shortages, which we kept hearing was a barrier, and enabling more healthcare pathway students to be able to move forward. And then finally, the Los Rios application was about innovative talent pipeline for regional healthcare demands. And that's about expanding the allied health programs to address workforce needs with relevant care. So of the 14 proposals, those 4 ranked high and were ultimately recommended and approved for funding. Okay. If you have any more questions about those or the first round, you can reach out to us directly, but there's also information about all of those on our website from the first round where we made the announcements. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a sense of the context for it. Looking ahead for round 2, some examples of projects that might align well. Again, just suggestions, not in any way exhaustive. Scaling biotech, health, or engineering apprenticeships might be something that would be super useful in our region. College enrollment, increasing UC or CSU enrollment among young men of color clearly connects to one of our goals. Dual enrollment, models that blend high school academics with CTE tracks. Again, just one example, but something to think about. These are all because we've heard from our region that these are issues that have come up, right? Transfer pathways, pilots that allow for cross-campus credit recognition. And then finally, data sharing. Can't stress enough how much we're interested in K-12 districts that want to partner around the data sharing with 2-year and 4-year schools. Got it. Thanks. So those are just some examples, again, just intended to kind of get the pathways opened up here in our brains, but not intended to be a limitation on ideas. We want as many great ideas as possible. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Roxanne now, who's going to walk us through the nuts and bolts of all of this, and really appreciate everybody's interest in accelerator grants and hope you apply.
Thanks, Carrie. I'll pause for just a moment to see if there are any questions at this point. We'll open it up again for questions at the end, but any questions so far?
Sorry, I have a question. I think maybe, I'm not sure, either Roxanne or Carrie may know our situation in Galt, but we're transitioning from the community college commitment because we're technically in San Joaquin, even though we're Sacramento County. If we are able to have our letter signed that allows us to collaborate with Los Rios, if we don't have that by May 12th, are we allowed to apply? Or can we just assure the K16 collaborative that it is in the works? And that it would be done if we were to receive an award. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, Linda. My advice would be go ahead and submit. That way, if you do get an update and approval, then you'd be able to at least, throw your hat in the ring and have a shot. Right, it would be contingent upon getting that approval.
Right.
But you can absolutely say in the application that it's in process, you're waiting on that approval, and of course the funding would be contingent on that approval because this grant is specifically supporting a regional area, right? A geographic location. But absolutely, I'd say don't miss out on applying. Worst case scenario, you're not able to secure approval, and then, you would go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions before I move on to the actual application? All right. Well, now let's talk about how to apply. We hope that we've made this process as streamlined as possible for you all. There is a proposal template that lays out all of the steps. So much of the information that we have shared today is going to be included in that template. So it can kind of guide you along, including the deadline, which is May 12th by 5 p.m. And let's go ahead and go through the template just briefly so you know what to expect. So as you can see, again, the deadline, May 12th by 5 p.m. As Carrie mentioned, the period of performance is July 1st through June 30th. So all funding received would need to be spent in that time period, and your activities that you set out in your proposal would need to be complete. Of course, you can continue on your work well past the grant term, but that's when the funding would actually need to be spent by. There is a budget template for you, so we can go ahead and pull that up and just give you a preview of that template. So nothing you are working on, you have to come up with yourself. We give a template for you. This is already pre-populated with all of the approved line items. So the items that you're already pre-approved to spend funding on. So items like equipment, marketing, advertising, event costs, all of that. So it's not an exhaustive list, right? So if you check the eligibility criteria, which is linked above, and you come up with a creative idea on something you'd like to spend funds on but aren't sure, feel free to reach out to that email in the link there, and you can always ask us for pre-approval. And please note that you can edit this template as you wish to meet your needs as well. So going back to the application, I'll just quickly show you that we're looking for some specific areas. It's going to list all of the priority goals and initiatives that we're looking to support. So make sure to review that. We do have the priority student populations that we're focused on. Please do list who you're planning to support if your proposal is funded. You will have to have a lead contact. That's really important down the line when, if you do receive funding. And it's important, especially if you are already receiving funding from the grant, to list whether you got approval from your institution and your core partner amount remaining, right? So that's going to be important. If we scroll down here, as you can see, there is signature lines, and this is your opportunity if you are a nonprofit or a community-based organization. This is your opportunity to say your lead contact and your sponsor, LEA or higher education institution, if that's applicable to you. If not, then we only need one lead signature for the entity applying. Next page, please. All right, so this is a maximum of 1,000 words. So maybe dissimilar from other applications that you've filled out. We're not looking for a dissertation here, right? There is a maximum word count. So make sure that you are being concise. You're really hitting all of the priority, significance, innovation, etc. areas that we're looking for. And make sure you stick to those word counts. Bullet points are totally fine, by the way. It does not need to be in paragraph form. So if bullet points help you with that word count, absolutely feel free to use those. And if we scroll down, I think that's towards the end of the application, but I would be remiss to, if I didn't talk about the rubric just quickly. This is what all proposals will be based off of. So make sure you really take a look at these key areas and make sure you're hitting as many as you can so that you can score as many points as possible. So that is exactly what it's going to be based off of, point value wise. So you have a clear picture of what to expect and how to frame your proposal. All right, thank you, Jaceline. We'll go on to the next slide. All right, final reminders. So as Carrie mentioned, this is really your chance to double down on what's working, right? We're looking for projects that have already started, but just need a bit of rocket fuel to take it to the next level. That's what we're hoping to support, not brand new projects. We are really looking for folks who are collaborating, right? We are a collaborative, so we'd love to see partnerships, whether that's industry partners, whether that's community college, K-12, university partners, right? The more partners, the merrier, I would say. If you do have any questions throughout completing your application, please do reach out to us at the k16@capitalimpact.org email. We will, of course, share this webinar recording and slides. And please do add to your calendar the deadline, which is May 12th, 2025. And remember, that's by 5 p.m. Next slide, please. All right, I know we had some great questions already, but I want to open it up one more time for any questions before we let you all go. Annie.
I was wondering, so can for-profits apply, like perhaps as a partner on a proposal?
Unfortunately, for-profits are not eligible for funding. It's a state grant, so we do have to follow state contracting law. We're unable to directly have a for-profit institution be a sub-award of the grant, right? Now, if a K-12 community college or even a nonprofit is awarded and they decide to contract with a company, that is totally allowable, but they cannot be the lead applicant in the proposal or application.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, well, seeing none, I will go ahead and conclude. I'll pass it back to Carrie for any last words.
Sure. Let's move on to the next slide. Thanks so much, Jacelyn, for your help with all of that. For folks who are watching this and, sometimes the questions really come up in the doing. So please do stay in touch. Please know we would love to be helpful in any way we can in your process of completing the application. We'd love for you to visit our website if you'd like to learn more about the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative, if that background is helpful. The application itself has links under those focus and priority areas to research that's been done and other resources that we've put in our resource hub on those topics. So if you don't have it handy with you on the application, you can also just find them directly through our website. So wanted to make sure everybody knew the website is not only a great place to learn about Sacramento K-16, but also that resource hub has a whole bunch of information that may be helpful to you in your application. We will do regular announcements about the Accelerator Fund, but all of the Sacramento K-16 work, a big piece of what we do is really about connecting folks with communication and resources and leveraging opportunities that exist so that region-wide it can have a bigger impact. So our LinkedIn's, LinkedIn, what's the thing where you go, LinkedIn? On LinkedIn is where you will find many of the things that really are kind of like the timely, immediate, important information for the Sacramento K-16 Collaborative. We try and get that up on our website as fast as possible, but it's really helpful to be connected to both. And then finally, we do a monthly newsletter, an example of which is on the right-hand side. But I encourage anyone who's considering to apply for an accelerator grant or just would like to know more about Sacramento K-16, sign up for the newsletter. It's a wealth of information, and it's amazing how much we've been able to share both about past funded proposals and folks who have received support for the Sacramento K-16 world, but also what's coming up and what resources might be of interest to you. So just wanted to make sure before we parted ways today, you had those resources as well. And then I think that was it. I think that was our final slide, other than to thank everyone for their time and for being willing to engage in this work. I know you've all been tremendously important in making Sacramento a healthy, better, more robust place for students, for families, for schools, for communities. And we're hoping this resource is something else that might help move that work forward. So thank you all so much for being here with us today.